Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the Week 10 Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. We have the Ravens and the Dolphins playing this Thursday night. As always guys, we're going to talk through the entire player pool for this Showdown slate. We're going to break it all down from top to bottom, touch on all the guys that I have interest in, all the guys I expect to see, enough playing time, enough opportunity to where they are viable and worth rostering. So we'll touch through, basically the entire player pool. As always, towards the end of the video, we'll talk through roster construction too. Kind of how I'm looking to build out my lineups, who I like to play at captain, who you should pair with your captain, how you should be correlating your lineups for these showdown slates. We'll talk about that as well towards the end of the video. But before we get started with the breakdown, as always, guys, please do hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here, and check out the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. For those of you that have not signed up for Prize Picks yet and you would like to check them out, they are more of a player prop based DFS site, so you're not having to compete against other people. You're not having to build out a lineup. You're basically just taking over or under on their projections. It's very simple. You can see everything they have available for Thursday night's game. They have passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, receptions. They also do fantasy point projections as well, so you can take a look at their fantasy point projections for each player. I know as we get closer to kickoff Thursday night, they'll start to add more projections for even more guys. But they already have a good amount available already for Thursday night's game. If you want to check out Prize Picks, you want to see what they have to offer, you want to make some picks for this game, then check them out. Link down below in the description, or just whenever you sign up for Prize Picks, use promo code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit, give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. You have to make at least 2 picks on Prize Picks, but you can make up to 5, and you can win up to 10x your money. So check them out and sign up with promo code NOAH, guys, so that way you do get that deposit bonus when you check them out. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the player pool. We're going to start off at the top. So as you would expect, with the Ravens being on this slate, with it being a showdown slate involving the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, most expensive player on the slate, to no surprise, $13,800 if you want to play him as a flex. If you want to use Lamar at captain, going to cost you a lot of salary, $20,700, but he's worth it. I mean, we've been through this so many times already. Anytime the Ravens are on a showdown slate, I think Lamar is going to be a top option. On this slate, he projects as the top play by a mile. I assume when the projections come out that Lamar is going to probably have a 6, 7, 8 point projection higher than the next guy. Really hard not to like him here. The Dolphins defense has not been good this year. Lamar's been elite, just as we would expect, especially for fantasy. We know the massive upside he gives. We know he can throw for 200, 300 yards. He can run for 50 to 100 yards. He can get the double, or he can get both bonuses, I should say. He could get the 300-yard passing bonus and the 100-yard rushing bonus on DraftKings. He just has that much upside. He's definitely a top play. I'm going to be trying to fit Lamar into as many lineups as I can. I would be very surprised at the end of the night if Lamar is not in the winning lineup. Do you need to play him a captain? Do you need to spend that much salary and play him a captain? We'll talk through that, but clearly Lamar is a top play on the slate. Then you have Hollywood Brown at 11K. I mean, Hollywood Brown, you can't go argue with him either. I mean, getting the volume, getting the opportunity, he is going to be the number one target for Lamar Jackson. Whenever Lamar drops back to throw, he's going to be looking for Marquise Brown. He's expensive at 11K. I would definitely rather play Lamar, but I think Hollywood is definitely in play on this slate. Obviously, if you can fit him in, by all means, he is a really good play. He has shown a lot of upside this season, has big play potential, is going to get a lot of targets. Miami secondary has been really weak. So I like Hollywood a lot. And then you got the Miami quarterback. So as of Wednesday night when I'm making this video, we don't have official word yet on who's going to be starting for the Dolphins come Thursday night. Tua's listed as questionable with that finger injury. He was active last week, but he was the backup. So they just basically used him as the backup. I don't know if he was really fully healthy, but I guess he could have played if something would have happened to Brissett. We don't know yet if Tua's going to play. For now, I'm just going to assume it's going to be Jacoby Brissett again. So if Jacoby Brissett is starting at quarterback Thursday night, I mean, at 9,800, he is definitely in play. Quarterbacks are normally always going to be in play for me on showdown slates. I think this is a game where the Dolphins are going to be forced to throw. Right now, looking at the spread in this game and the total, we got a 47 total. The Dolphins, even at home, they're 7.5 point dogs. So game script's probably going to lean towards them passing more. We saw Jacoby Brissett throw the ball 43 times last week. I think the pass volume alone is going to make him a pretty safe play. Quarterbacks are normally always safe. I think Jacoby Brissett is definitely, obviously, someone you could look to. And then, by some chance, if Brissett's not the starter and it winds up being Tua, then yeah, you could definitely play Tua. Just keep an eye on which guy's going to be starting come Thursday night. I'm sure we'll find out at some point. At least, probably an hour or two before kickoff, we'll find out. But then you got Myles Gaskin at 9,400. who pretty much was a workhorse running back last week. They used him a ton. He got 26 total touches, 20 carries, was not very efficient at all, only had 34 rushing yards, but he did also get 6 catches for 23 yards. He did get into the end zone as well. I'm pretty sure he played he played 72% of the snaps last week. I think we're going to continue to see Myles Gaskin be a workhorse running back, while Malcolm Brown's out. Because really, they don't really have any other guys. I mean, Salvon Ahmed played on 23% of the snaps. Patrick Laird played on 14%. But I don't think I was looking at the wrong column. Patrick Laird played on 9% of the snaps. Salvon Ahmed played on 19% of the snaps. So I don't think we're really going to see much of those guys regardless. I think it's going to be a lot of Myles Gaskin. Against the Ravens, the matchup against the Ravens might not be the best. Let me look at how many yards they've allowed to running backs this season. I think Baltimore actually has kind of been bad against the run, if I do remember correctly. But I want to get this pulled up. I should have pulled it up already before I started making the video. But looking at the Ravens, they are, let's see, where's Baltimore at? Baltimore has allowed 644 rushing yards to opposing running backs. So that's not great. They have allowed 20 fantasy points per game to running backs, which is a little bit better. I don't think this is a great matchup for Gaskin. I don't know if he's going to be that efficient in this matchup, but the volume and the opportunity is going to be there. And I think that's really all we kind of care about. So volume alone is going to make Gaskin a pretty solid play in the mid-range. Mark Andrews at 8,800, another solid play. Going to get probably 8 to 10 targets. We know he's always a threat near the red zone. We know he's always a guy they can use in the red zone to score touchdowns. He's definitely a threat to score multiple touchdowns any week. The upside on Mark Andrews might not be as high as some of these other guys like Hollywood, even Gaskin, maybe Waddle I'd rather play. I think Andrews comes in a bit lower owned on this slate, so he is definitely playable. Obviously, put Mark Andrews in your player pool, but if I was playing one lineup on this slate, I don't think Mark Andrews would be in my one lineup. I probably would rather go to someone like Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is going to continue to get a ton of opportunity. He's going to be the lead receiver for this Dolphins team, especially while Devontae Parker and Will Fuller are out, and they're going to be out once again for this game on Thursday. Looking at snaps for last week, Jalen Waddle basically played on almost every snap. He played on 87% of the snaps. He's going to be an every down receiver. This is going to be a pass-heavy game script for the Dolphins. I expect probably 10 targets again, if not more than that, for Jalen Waddle. For sure, one of the better options in the mid-range, in my opinion. I do prefer him over Andrews. I prefer him over Gesicki as well. Think I'd take the savings and play him over Gaskin too. Really, really like Jalen Waddle in this mid-range. And Gesicki's fine too. Gesicki's going to be the number 2 receiver behind Jalen Waddle. He's going to get probably 6-8 targets at minimum. Does he have the upside that Waddle does? I'm not sure. He's had some big games this year, but I think I'd rather play Waddle. Probably would rather go to Mark Andrews too. I think Gesicki will be a little bit lower owned, so he is definitely someone you could go to in tournaments. But I feel better about Waddle, Andrews, Gaskin, those guys, I think, over Gesicki. And then we get to the Baltimore running back. So Latavius Murray looks like he's going to be out once again Thursday night, which is basically going to leave Devontae Freeman and Le'Veon Bell as kind of the 2 lead guys for this Baltimore run game. Last week it was Devontae Freeman who led them in snaps and touches. Devontae Freeman played on 58% of the snaps. He got 15 total touches, 13 carries for 79 yards, and then he had 3 targets that got 2 catches for 4 yards. He did get into the end zone last week with a little receiving touchdown near the goal line. Look, Devontae Freeman at this point in his career, I don't think is a great running back. I don't think he's going to be really efficient most weeks, but they really don't have anyone else. You're going to see Freeman get probably 10 to 12 touches at minimum. You're going to see Le'Veon Bell involved a little bit as well. Le'Veon Bell got 11 touches last week. He also got into the end zone. I think Le'Veon Bell probably doesn't have as much upside as Freeman. I don't think they're going to use him as much as Freeman either. So far with the Ravens, he's barely been utilized at all. But again, these are their 2 running backs. They're going to use Freeman. They're going to use Bell. Tyson Williams is healthy too, but Tyson Williams has barely been involved. Last week, Tyson Williams didn't even get involved. He didn't get a single touch. He did play on some snaps, I think. Let me see. Tyson Williams did play on 18% of the snaps, but he didn't touch the ball at all. So, it's going to be Freeman and Le'Veon Bell getting the touches. Freeman's the guy I do prefer, though, if I had to roster one of the Ravens running backs. But, man, this backfield I don't know if there's much upside for either one of these guys. So, they're probably just avoids for me. Could they get into the end zone and be worth rostering? That's possible. But I think if Freeman or Bell, if neither one get into the end zone, they are very likely to disappoint at their price points because I think they're not going to get enough opportunity to or be efficient with their touches to where they can really put up a big game without scoring a touchdown. So I don't love the Ravens running backs in general. Then you got Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins. So Sammy Watkins has been out for a while. He's been out since week 5, but he did get a full practice in Wednesday. It seems like he is going to play comes Thursday night. They still have him listed as questionable, but I am expecting Sammy Watkins to play. If he plays, that might hurt Rashad Bateman a little bit, but I think Rashad Bateman is the clear number 2 wide receiver for this Ravens team right now behind Hollywood Brown. I think they're going to use him a lot. Last week, Rashad Bateman, he played on 66% of the snaps. I mean, he was still heavily involved. He got 8 targets. This Ravens team, they've been throwing the ball a lot more this year than they have in previous seasons. So there is definitely upside for a guy like Bateman. Obviously, he is one of their rookies that they drafted early. I think he was their first-round pick. Got a lot of upside, someone I'm sure they probably want to develop. I would expect Bateman is kind of ahead of Sammy Watkins in terms of the depth chart right now. So even if Sammy Watkins returns, I still expect Bateman to be the guy that plays more than Watkins. So if I have to choose one of those 2 receivers, I would definitely prefer Bateman. I think he's just more talented as well. Sammy Watkins, if he plays, I guess would be fine, but there's definitely a chance they maybe ease him back here. He's coming back from a thigh injury, so anytime you're coming back from those type of injuries, whether it's a thigh or a leg or an ankle, like a lot of times you'll see guys, limited when they come back from leg injuries. So not that interested in Watkins. Devin Duvernay, not in play for me. Unless Watkins does not play, then I think Duvernay's fine. But, Duvernay's going to be like the wide receiver 4 at that point, and he's too expensive in my opinion. The Ravens defense, I think, is fine. The value on this slate's not great. We haven't really talked about a ton of cheap options that I love, and we're going to get to some of the value plays. On the last slate with the Steelers and the Bears, I thought the defenses were pretty good values just because there was not a ton of other value that I really liked. On this slate, I think, the Ravens defense against Miami, Miami's offense has not been great this year. Whether it's Brissett or Tua, like those guys will turn the ball over. They'll take sacks. So I think the Ravens defense is in play. Matt Collins is kind of in play for me too. I don't know if he really has much upside, but they're going to use Matt Collins a lot. I think he's basically their wide receiver 2 at this point. Matt Collins last week, he played on 80% of the snaps. So he was basically the guy on the outside along with Jalen Waddle. Like Jalen Waddle and Matt Collins, I think, are the number 1 and number 2 on the outside. And then they're probably going to mix in Albert Wilson. They're going to mix in Preston Williams a little bit. They'll mix in who else do they have? They have it's really just Hollins. It's Hollins and Waddle that have been the main guys on the outside. Then you did see let's see, where's Albert Wilson? You did see Albert Wilson play on 23% of the snaps last week. Kirk Merritt got 15% of the snaps. I don't think I'm really going to play Kirk Merritt on this slate, but he got some opportunity too. But clearly, there's at least potential for Matt Collins to have a good game. When you're playing 75, 80% of the snaps and you're going to get probably 5-6 targets, there's obviously a potential you catch a touchdown, you get into the end zone. So Matt Collins is playable at 4,200. I don't have a ton of confidence in him, but he's going to play 75, 80% of the snaps, and he's 4,200. So I think he's obviously someone you can look to for value. I think the kickers are pretty solid values on this slate. I try and not play the kickers most times, but with how thin the value is for this one, I think, Justin Tucker, Sanders, I think those guys are definitely in play. I probably wouldn't play both kickers in the same lineup, but I think one of the 2 kickers is totally fine. Dolphins defense, probably not going to go there against Lamar. Durham Smythe, he's going to get maybe 1 or 2 targets as the backup tight end. You got to hope that he catches a touchdown, because if he doesn't, he's probably going to bust at his price point. So not really much interest in him. Again, Tyson Williams really wasn't even involved last week. They clearly just used, Freeman and Bell the most. Tyson Williams played less than 20% of the snaps, didn't touch the ball at all. Could they give him some more carries this week? They could, but I still don't have that much confidence in Williams. None of these other guys are getting that much involvement. I will say that Salvon Ahmed's the backup running back. Last week he got 4 carries for 6 yards. That was his only involvement in the game. He didn't get any targets. He's only $800. It's really rare that we find backup running backs this cheap. If Salvon Ahmed gets 6-8 touches, there's a possibility that he is really efficient with those touches. Maybe he breaks off a long run, scores 8 DraftKings points. I think he's worth a flyer. I think if you are looking for a really cheap punt play, Salvon Ahmed is in play. And then, Albert Wilson, the rest of these Miami receivers, their dart throws, I don't have a ton of confidence in any of them. Shaheen, going to get maybe 1 or 2 targets. You got to hope he catches a touchdown. None of these guys down here I'm very confident in. Do want to mention Preston Williams as well. So Preston Williams really hasn't been involved much at all this season. He's kind of been hurt. Last 2 weeks, I believe he's been a healthy scratch. But they have already come out and said that he will be active and he will be available for Thursday's game. So I'm expecting Preston Williams to play. I'm expecting him to get some snaps, some targets probably. he's got some talent. You know, Preston Williams last year, or at least I think it was maybe last year or a couple years ago when Devontae Parker missed some games last season, or I can't remember when it was, but I remember Preston Williams doing really well whenever Devontae Parker was out for a stretch of games. Preston Williams really showed out. You know, I think he's pretty talented. I don't know why he's kind of been a healthy scratch. I think for week 9, they said it was disciplinary related, so he wasn't even injured. They just, chose not to play him for some reason. But he's going to be available here. He's only, he's the minimum salary. He's $200. I don't know how much he plays. I don't know if he sees many targets, but for $200, I think he's a talented receiver that probably gets on the field enough to where I'm willing to take a shot on him. So if I'm going to play like one of these cheap punt plays, whether it's Ahmed or Shaheen or Wilson or Preston Williams, I think Preston Williams might be my favorite at $200. I think if he does get like 4 or 5 targets, he could be, one of these guys that actually does put up a big game because he has some upside. I think he is a pretty talented receiver. I do like him at only $200 if you're looking for a punt play. But I think that's pretty much it for the player pool, guys. I think we broke it all down. We can talk through roster construction real quick. It's a really tricky slate because obviously Lamar, Marquise Brown, these guys look like great plays, but they're also very, very expensive. If you want to play Lamar at captain, I think Lamar at captain's probably the top. It's going to be the top projected way to go because Lamar, he's going to project so much better than anyone else on this slate. If you do play Lamar at captain, though, you're down to $5,860 left per player, so you're pretty thin on salary. You're probably going to have to play like one of these cheap guys, or you're going to have to play like the kicker or maybe even both kickers. But if we want to try and pair Lamar with one of his pass catchers, normally if I play a quarterback at captain, which I really don't, but I am fine playing Lamar at captain because obviously Lamar has 35, 40-point upside. He doesn't have to throw for 5 touchdowns to put up a big game. He can do it with his legs. He can do it himself. I don't think you have to pair a receiver with Lamar if you're playing him at captain, but normally I try and do that. So you have, Hollywood at $11K. Obviously, I would prefer to get Hollywood in here, but it's going to be really tough to play him. You have Mark Andrews at $8,800, and then you have Rashad Bateman at $5,800. Rashad Bateman, again, he played on like 66% of the snaps last week. I think he's going to be the clear wide receiver too. I expect him to play ahead of Sammy Watkins, even if Sammy Watkins is active. So let's pair Rashad Bateman with Lamar Jackson, and then maybe let's see if we can get one of the other quarterbacks. So I'm assuming that it's going to be Brissett that starts. Again, keep an eye on this. We don't have confirmation yet, but if Brissett's starting, let's play Brissett too. Let's plug in Preston Williams for a punt play. I'm going to take a shot on Preston Williams. He's definitely going to be in my player pool. I'll be interested to see, when the projections come out, if he's projected for any points. At $200, I'm definitely going to be taking the shot on him, just hoping that he gets to play like 20, 30% of the snaps. Maybe he gets a couple targets go his way and breaks off a long catch or something, which he could do. If we do plug in Preston Williams, though, we got $67.50 left per player. So now we got some salary to work with. We could maybe, I don't think we could fit Hollywood. We probably wouldn't be able to do that. But we could maybe play like Myles Gaskin. That would leave us enough to play one of the kickers. So, that's something we could do. We could play Jalen Waddle. That would leave us enough to play like Devin Duvernay. But I don't think I'd be playing Devin Duvernay. We could play, Matt Collins, though, which I think is fine. So that's a build you could do. I definitely like Waddle. I mean, he's one of my favorite mid-range plays. I would want to try and get him in. Like, I think if I was playing one lineup, I think I would want to play Waddle. We could definitely do like a Waddle captain lineup, though, which is something I like. Play Waddle at captain, pair him with Jacoby Brissett, get Lamar in there too. Then maybe we'll play Preston Williams as our punt value, and that leaves us $69.50. So let's see, could we get Gaskin and one of the kickers? Yeah, we could get Gaskin and one of the kickers, or we could get Gaskin and Matt Collins. If we played Hollywood in this build, that would leave us enough to get, the Dolphins defense, which I don't love. So I don't know if we'd go that route, but we could go Gaskin and then, Matt Collins, which I think's a solid build. I do like Jalen Waddle as a captain option. I think if you're not going to pay up for Lamar at captain or pay up for Hollywood at captain, I think Waddle's probably my next favorite play in the captain spot. I don't know if there's any cheap guys I'd be using at captain. I think Bateman is captain viable. I think Bateman does have some upside. He's been getting good volume when he's healthy. 6 targets, 8 targets. I mean, if he gets 8 targets, there's a possibility he gets 5 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown and has a good game and, could be the winning captain. So he could be a cheap captain to go to, but I think for the most part, Lamar, Hollywood, Waddle, even Andrews, I kind of like at captain. Those are going to be the guys I try and focus on in the captain spot that I, kind of limit my captain player pool to. I don't really play a ton of different captains. I usually try and pick, 3, 4, maybe 5 guys and just kind of you build around those guys in the captain spot. But yeah, man, that's kind of it for this Thursday Night Football game, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching. It was a quick little breakdown, but I did want to talk through the slate with you guys. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click that like button if you did. Click that subscribe button as well if you're new here. And check out Prize Picks. If you have not yet, sign up for Prize Picks, guys. Use promo code NOAH when you check out Prize Picks. See everything they have to offer. Make some picks for this Thursday night game. You can take a look at their projections, see what they have. Pick over or under on their projections. Definitely some ones I like kind of at first look. Like Hollywood, over 14.5 fantasy points. I for sure like that one. Myles Gaskin, 11 fantasy points. I mean, he's going to just get so many touches, like 11 fantasy points, especially with Prize Picks fantasy scoring being full PPR. I mean, Myles Gaskin's probably going to catch a couple passes, easily can go over 11 fantasy points. So definitely like over on Gaskin, over on Hollywood. Like those are two picks I like for Prize Picks. You could pair those two together, do a power play, triple up your money if you get both picks right. So yeah, guys, if you want to check out Prize Picks, sign up, use promo code NOAH, see everything Prize Picks has to offer. When you sign up with my code, they will match your first deposit up to $100. But that's it for tonight's slate, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy, and we will see you in the next one. Good luck, guys.